What was the wildest way you found out you were being cheated on? Her parents told me. She demanded to read all the messages on my phone. I said no problem, but only if I could read the messages on hers. She had forgotten to delete a message from a guy saying, "All we ever do is UCK, can't we hang out sometime?" There was nothing on my phone. I joked about knowing she was cheating. She broke down and admitted it. She tasted like smoke, but was a non-smoker. On my birthday, I was with my GF and IPSSED out early since I had a long-ass shift that day, and had to drive 2H to get to her place. Woke up in the middle of the night, went outside to get a smoke, saw her ucking her ex in his car on the parking lot. I went on a 2-week holiday, and when I returned he was acting really strange. I tried to ask him what was wrong and why he was acting off. He started an argument with me, told me I was too young and insecure, asked me to leave, didn't want to see me again. I left sobbing, totally confused. 9 months later I see him walking through the city with his ex and a newborn baby. Now you understand. Not me but my dad. His girlfriend at the time had been cheating on him with his friend, who didn't know they were in a relationship. My dad found out when his friend told him he was going to propose to her. He apparently wrote an address wrong, and the love letter he wrote was returned to our home. It was a great way to come back from vacation. He sent me a photo of some girl sucking his ick at the party he was at, on Valentine's Day, after canceling his plans with me. Broke up with me, and as I was going though deleting her socials, I noticed a post she made on her Snap story that was her and a guy with a post saying, "With my king." Post was made 2 hours ago and had only broke up an hour ago. My fire alarm woke me up when it was low on batteries at 5 a.m. and thought it was strange that my GF wasn't home yet. She was out drinking with her friend. I tried to call her, but she didn't answer. That's when I remembered that we had the friend Spariki. She lived like next house, so I went to check. And my GF was sleeping in her friend's bed with some guy. If the fire alarm didn't woke me, I think I wouldn't they've ever known. He sent me a pic of the dog while I was away with a text that said, "Look how cute she looks." Like 3 weeks later I went back to the photo to show a friend, and upon looking at the photo again I noticed a pair of women's boots in the background by the door. One of her friends was a photographer and wanted tasteful nudes, which apparently includes penetration. And multiple days of getting the right shot. We had a shared Google Drive, which her friend didn't know we shared. Date night canceled day of. I decided to make it a guy's night to see the new Marvel movie at the time. As we entered, I saw her sitting at the theater snuggling up with a guy. Our seats were a few rows back, saw them kiss a couple times. When we all left at the end of the movie, they were exiting their aisle as we walked down the stairs. She absolutely froze when she saw me. Blocked her on everything while on the parking lot. Found him in a motel room with someone when I was 6 months pregnant. Came home off a deployment. Now, ex-wife was acting really weird, but I figured it was because I had been gone for a year and everything was just taking time to get reacquainted. About 3 days after I returned, I had a notice from a unit stating my vehicle had 3 tickets at another base. We were in Germany, a few hours away in the past few months. When I went in to find out what the deal was, all 3 had photos attached to them for speeding through a checkpoint. All 3 had my wife and some other guy. She was kissing him in the 3rd pic. He was driving my car. Not really wild, but my ex-wife and I owned a small business together. One day I noticed a strange email address on the office computer. Her first name and a different last name. I realized that email was still logged in, so I took a peek. I found 2 years worth of emails between my ex and some dude she dated before me. So I printed out every email and had it bound in a binder ready to present to my divorce lawyer. Had one of those catching up phone calls with a girl I used to be good friends with. Told her all about my girlfriend during the conversation. The next day, I'm supposed to see my girlfriend and she cancels on me. No big deal. A couple hours later, my old friend starts texting me asking me questions about my girlfriend. She ends up telling me she's pretty sure my girlfriend is in the backseat of a car with her and that my girl's been all over her boyfriend's brother and they're all on their way to movies now. I try calling her and texting to confront her. She calls me back and breaks up with me. The cherry on top is my girlfriend and I work together, and the guy she's cheating with is my manager. She ends up quitting not long after, but I have to work with this guy for another year before I change jobs. Lol. My 9-year-old son told me that there were strange men in the house when I was away working. She'd been at it for years. It's horrible to deal with at the time. Booth, honestly, it's such a relief to be rid of such a toxic mess. Reading all this hit really hurts. My old barbershop. Was talking to my barber above, and one of the other barbers overheard. We ended up finding out it was the same chick skull. My entire friend group knew about it, and I only found out after the one real homie blackmailed her into admitting it. And when she did, it was the most insincere height ever. It's no big deal, everyone else thinks it's sock, and stuff like that. Suffice to say, I got miss out of that relationship and friendship group. Real quick. I was out with this girl I'd been with a few months. Went to a nice restaurant for dinner and stopped at a local dive later to hang with mutual friends and coworkers. I went into the men's room later to see her legs under a stall and heard a coworker's voice saying, "Suck that ick." Left the bathroom, went directly to bartender and had her split our check and paid mine and bounced like ucking Tigger. Game over. My dumb SS loved her. Keeping a long story short. My mate told me. He would have no reason to lie, confirming suspicions I already had. He saw them kissing passionately on a street corner near where we were living. The other guy was her uncle. Nauseated face, not like a family friend sort of uncle. Her father's actual brother. Needless to say, I was out of there. Immediately. My colleague had an elaborate wedding, cathedral ceremony, hundreds of guests, to a guy she'd been with for years. She found out shortly afterwards he'd been heating because they met this girl, who was his colleague and gym buddy, when they were walking in the park and their two French bulldogs, who were noisy and protective, didn't bark at her at all. There was no reason for her to have met the dogs before, as she had never been to their house to her knowledge. So she snooped on his phone while he was asleep, and apparently he had been cheating for over a year and she was pregnant, and they were opening a business together and he was leaving as soon as he had the whole thing set up. When the dust settled, the only thing she was pissed off about was the expense they and her parents had spent on the wedding. He could have called the whole thing off and saved thousands. She didn't learn though. Her second wedding was nearly as elaborate. What is a small psychological trick that you use to your advantage in everyday life? The power of might as well. It's particularly useful if you're depressed and don't have a lot of energy to do things. So for example, if I get up to put food in the microwave, I'm going to be standing in my kitchen for exactly 1.5 minutes. Might as well put dishes away while I wait. If I've gotten up to grab my phone from the other room, I might as well take this garbage with me and put it in the trash can, instead of letting it pile up. I've just gotten home and am changing out of work clothes and into pajamas. I'm already standing in my closet. The pull-up bar is right there in the doorway. Might as well do 1 or 2 pull-ups. I even throw in a couple squats while I wait for the shower to warm up. If you whisper to a crying toddler, they'll quiet down to hear what you're saying. If you make your words almost imperceptible, they will really quiet down. And if you mumble and throw in some words like ice cream or their favorite TV show, it works even better. This won't be applicable to everyone, but as a sysadmin, I've learned years ago that for career advancement, it's much better to be visible to the rest of the company than 100% on top of things and mostly invisible. I will occasionally let something go wrong that I could have prevented because I knew it was coming, and have the fix ready immediately. You look like a hero for fixing things so quickly, and management loves you. You have to space it out though. You don't want things going wrong so regularly that they start to question why things break, but you also don't want things never going wrong so they wonder why they even have you in the budget. Silence. Silence is easily the most powerful tool in conversation. Don't like what someone just said? Go silent and they'll backpedal. Want someone to elaborate when they might be reluctant? Just wait silently. They'll do it. Stay silent during a negotiation and they'll fight against themselves for you. I listen more than I talk. Assume stupidity instead of malice. There are a lot more stupid people than evil ones, and we all do stupid things now and then. It helps empathizing with people who did something you don't appreciate. I guess I would call it using inertia. It's a million times easier to keep doing something once you have started. So if I don't feel like working out, I tell myself I'll just do a short workout. Or if the dishes need to be done, I'll tell myself Toto one. More often than not, once I start doing something, my brain stops fighting so much against it. The important thing though is to let yourself only do the short workout or that one dish if you start and still are fighting yourself. Otherwise, you just don't start in the first place because you know you are really talking about doing the whole thing. Taking a late lunch at work. I find that if I wait and take my lunch break closer to the end of my shift, around 2 p.m., it makes the days feel shorter, more bearable. IDKY, it just always felt awful taking it in the middle of my shift and having a whole other half to go after I finished lunch. What's the worst thing you've ever put your finger in? Horse SS. To be fair, it was my whole arm. Edit. Horse had constipation-induced colic. This can very quickly cause bowels to perforate. Horse eat a lot, and if their intestines are not moving, it gets stuck quickly. So I had to remove HIT and stimulate bowel to work again. This is simply Donivia removing HIT. It's not something that is slowly progressing. From first colic signs you have hours tops before intestine twistes perforates. So did everything else that could be done: walking, massage, medication. But it didn't work, and our vet wasn't going to make it since horse was getting worse by the minute and only available vet was stuck at complicated birth. Yup, horse did survive. No, I didn't have glove on. The skin from a deceased fire victim while moving her into a body bag while I was a firefighter. My homie was sleeping with his mouth open and Medrunk decided it was a good idea to put my finger in his mouth. He started sucking it and then woke up. Then we looked at each other's eyes, not knowing what's happening. One of the most uncomfortable experiences in our lives. I plead the fifth. The bone marrow of a traumatically amputated femur. I was going to say my dog's Erd cutter. Then I remembered the horrible dirt bike wreck of 1988 where I did flips in the air and landed horribly, body slamming the ground. The bike came down with a 2 long bolts sticking out of the exhaust, hugely stupid, which came down and impaled my right calf. I stuck my finger in the hole to stop the bleeding. Not really gross but disturbing. I didn't think to just put compression on it. It was shooting like a faucet and I just thought to cork it.